I never thought the man who saved my life would be the same one to destroy it. But there I was, standing in the rain outside the Obsidian Tower, watching through floor-to-ceiling windows as my husband of 3 years pressed his lips against my sister's mouth. Not a friendly kiss. Not an accident. His hands were in her hair, her body arched against his, and between them, barely visible, was the contract I'd spent 6 months negotiating. The Blackwood deal. The deal that was supposed to save my family's company. The deal with my signature on it, and my sister's hand reaching for it, pulling it away from the table while they kissed. 20 minutes earlier, I'd been in a car accident 4 blocks away. Nothing serious. A fender bender in the downtown district, but serious enough that I'd left my briefcase behind, the one with the final documents I needed for tonight's signing. When I'd called Marcus, my husband, he'd told me not to worry. He'd bring everything to the restaurant. We'd celebrate there instead. He'd sounded so warm on the phone, so loving. 20 minutes. That's all it took for my entire world to shift on its axis. My name is Alexandra Winters, and until this moment, I'd thought I had it all figured out. I was the CEO of Winters Global, a company my grandfather built from nothing in the 1950s. At 32, I doubled our revenue, expanded into 14 countries, and earned a reputation as one of the most ruthless negotiators in the industry. The media called me the Ice Queen. My competitors called me worse. But my family, my husband, they saw the real me, or so I believed. I should move. I should burst through those doors and confront them. But I'm frozen, water streaming down my face, mixing with tears I didn't realize I was crying. Because it's not just the kiss. It's the way Marcus is looking at her. The same way he used to look at me, back when we first met at that charity gala 5 years ago. Back when I still believed in fairy tales. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I ignore it. It buzzes again and again. Finally, I pull it out, my hands shaking so badly I almost drop it. 7 missed calls, all from the same number, a number I don't recognize. Then a text message appears. Mrs. Winters, you need to see this before you sign anything. Coffee shop on 5th and Madison, corner table. Come alone. You have 30 minutes before it's too late. I look back up at the window. Marcus and my sister, Cassandra, have separated now. They're sitting at the conference table, heads bent together over the documents. My documents. Through the rain-streaked glass, I can see Cassandra's lips moving, her hand gesturing emphatically. Marcus nods, then pulls out his phone. Probably the text he sent me an hour ago, the one saying he'd meet me at the Obsidian Tower instead of the restaurant. The one that led me here, to this moment, to this revelation. 30 minutes. The text said I had 30 minutes. I glance at my watch. It's already been 5 since the message came through. 25 minutes left. For what? To stop whatever is happening, to save myself, to save my company. I turn away from the window and start running. My heels clack against the wet pavement, each step splashing through puddles that have formed in the October evening chill. The coffee shop on 5th and Madison is 12 blocks away. In this rain, with traffic, I'll barely make it. But I run anyway, because something in that text message felt urgent. Felt true. Felt like the only solid thing in a world that's suddenly become liquid and unstable. The coffee shop is one of those old establishments that's been around since the 1960s, the kind with red leather booths and a long counter where regulars sit reading newspapers. I burst through the door, gasping for air, water dripping from my designer coat onto the checkered floor. A few patrons look up, then quickly look away. New Yorkers, used to ignoring other people's drama. In the corner booth sits a man I've never seen before. Late 50s, maybe early 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He's wearing an expensive suit, the kind that costs more than most people's monthly rent. In front of him is a manila envelope, thick with documents. He sees me and nods once, a gesture that's both greeting and confirmation. I slide into the booth across from him, not bothering to take off my wet coat. Who are you? My name is Robert Chen. I was your father's attorney before he died. He pushes the envelope across the table. I'm also the executor of a trust you don't know exists. My father died 7 years ago. Heart attack at his desk, still working at 65 even though he'd promised my mother he'd retire. I'd been the one to find him, still warm, his hand still holding a pen. The memory flashes through my mind, sharp and painful even after all this time. My father didn't have any secret trusts. I handled his entire estate. You handled what he wanted you to handle. Robert Chen's voice is gentle but firm. What he needed you to handle at the time, but there was always a contingency plan, a failsafe. He knew the vultures would circle after he was gone. He just didn't know they'd come from inside the family. What are you talking about? But even as I ask, I think of Cassandra upstairs, her lips on my husband's, her hands on my contract. Open the envelope. My hands are still shaking as I pull out the documents. The first is a letter in my father's handwriting. I recognize it immediately, those strong, confident strokes he used to mark up my business school homework, the way he dotted his I's and crossed his T's. The date at the top is 2 weeks before he died. My dearest Alexandra, it begins. If you're reading this, then Robert has determined that you need to know the truth. I'm sorry I never told you while I was alive, but some secrets are too dangerous to share until they become necessary. Your mother doesn't know about this. Your sister can never know. And for reasons that will become clear, I need you to trust no one until you understand the full picture. I look up at Robert Chen. What is this? Keep reading. I do, and with each paragraph, my world shifts again, this time not with betrayal, but with revelation. My father, it turns out, had discovered something in the months before his death. Winters Global, the company he'd built, the company I now ran, had been infiltrated. Not by competitors, not by hostile investors, but by a group called the Consortium, a shadow organization of wealthy families who specialized in acquiring successful companies through manipulation and strategic destruction. Their method was elegant in its cruelty. They'd identify a strong company with family leadership, plant people close to the family members, create relationships, marriages, friendships, all built on lies. Then, when the time was right, they'd use those relationships to take control. Usually through contracts signed in trust, through legal documents that seemed legitimate until it was too late. You're telling me Marcus is part of this consortium. I can barely form the words. Your husband, your sister, your CFO Richard Blackstone, 3 of your board members, and the family you're about to sign the Blackwood deal with tonight. They're all connected. The Blackwood deal isn't a partnership, Alexandra. It's a takeover. Hidden in the fine print of that contract are clauses that will give the Blackwood family controlling interest in Winters Global within 6 months. By this time next year, you'll be out, and everything your grandfather and father built will belong to them. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Cassandra, my own sister. Your sister has been working with the consortium since college. Your father discovered this about 6 months before he died. It's actually what triggered his heart attack. The stress of knowing his youngest daughter had betrayed the family for money. That's impossible. Cassandra was 20 years old when Dad died. She was still in school. She was recruited at 19 by a man named Victor Blackwood. Does that name sound familiar? It does. Victor Blackwood is the patriarch of the Blackwood family, the one I've been negotiating with for 6 months. The one whose son, James Blackwood, is supposed to sign the contract tonight alongside me, cementing what I thought was a partnership between our companies. He's old enough to be her father. Yes, and he used that dynamic, that power imbalance, to groom her into being his agent inside your family. When your father found out, he confronted Victor. They had a meeting 2 weeks before his death. Your father threatened to expose the entire consortium, to take them down publicly. Victor told him that if he did, he'd destroy Cassandra's life, release information that would put her in prison for securities fraud she'd committed under his direction. Your father was trapped. He couldn't save his company without destroying his daughter. I'm crying now, really crying, the kind of tears that feel like they're being ripped from somewhere deep inside. My father had died knowing this, had died trying to protect both his daughters, his company, his legacy, and found himself in an impossible situation. So what did he do? He created a failsafe, the trust I mentioned. Robert Chen pulls out another document, this one heavy with legal seals and notarizations. Your father transferred 49% of Winters Global into an irrevocable trust with you as the sole beneficiary. But the transfer was structured in a way that it wouldn't activate unless certain conditions were met. Specifically, unless you tried to sign over control of the company to a hostile entity. The trust is set up so that the moment you sign the Blackwood contract, the shares automatically transfer to your name, giving you majority control. Their takeover fails. But more than that, your father included provisions that allow you to sue the consortium for fraud, to recover damages, and to expose their entire operation. Why didn't he just tell me this when he was alive? Why didn't he warn me about Marcus, about Cassandra? Because he was still hopping to find another way. A way to save Cassandra, to bring her back from the edge before she went too far. He thought he had time. He was working with me to build a case against Victor that wouldn't implicate Cassandra, that would prove she'd been manipulated and controlled. But then he died, and I had to wait. The trust terms were clear. I could only reveal this information if you were about to sign a contract that would harm the company. Until tonight, that hadn't happened. I sit back in the booth, my mind racing. Marcus, how long has he been part of this? He was recruited to target you 4 years ago, a year before you met him. The charity gala where you first saw him, that was arranged. Your chance encounter at the bar, your shared love of obscure jazz music, the way he seemed to understand you like no one else ever had. All of it was research. All of it was manipulation. He studied you for months before he ever said hello. I think of our wedding day, the vows we exchanged, the life we'd built. Or the life I thought we'd built. 3 years of marriage, and all of it was a lie. Every kiss, every conversation, every moment of intimacy. Calculated. Fake. A means to an end. I think I'm going to be sick. Robert Chen slides a glass of water across the table. Drink this, and then we need to talk about what happens next. I drink, the cold water shocking my system, bringing me back to the moment. What happens next is I go back to that tower and I confront them. No, his voice is sharp now, commanding. That's exactly what you don't do. The moment they know you know, they'll accelerate their plan. They'll freeze your accounts, they'll file emergency motions with the board, they'll claim you're having a mental breakdown. They've been preparing for the possibility that you might find out. They have contingencies. Then what do I do? You sign the contract. I stare at him. Are you insane? You just told me the contract is designed to steal my company. The contract as it exists now, yes. But what they don't know is that your father's trust has a provision. When you sign it, the trust activates, but it also automatically files an emergency injunction in federal court, freezing all transfers of shares and requiring a full forensic audit of everyone involved in the deal. The moment you sign, they're trapped. Their fraud is exposed, and you have every legal right to void the contract and press criminal charges. I look down at the documents spread across the table. At my father's letter, his handwriting swimming before my eyes. He'd known about all of it, and he'd protected me the only way he could, by setting up this elaborate trap that would spring only when it was needed most. How long do I have? The signing is scheduled for 9 tonight. It's 8:15 now. You have 45 minutes to get back to the Obsidian Tower, compose yourself, and walk into that room like you don't know anything. Can you do that? Can I look Marcus in the eye and pretend I still love him? Can I shake James Blackwood's hand and smile while knowing he's trying to steal everything I have? Can I sit next to my sister and act like I don't know she's been working to destroy me since she was 19 years old? I have to, because the alternative is losing everything my family built, everything my father died trying to protect. I can do it. I stand up, my legs steadier now, my mind clearing. The shock is fading, being replaced by something else. Something cold and hard and sharp. The Ice Queen, they call me. They have no idea how true that is. What do I need to know before I go in there? Robert Chen spends the next 15 minutes walking me through everything. The trust documents, the legal mechanisms, the exact timing of how everything will unfold. He gives me a phone number for a federal agent who's been investigating the consortium for 3 years, who will move in the moment the injunction is filed. He shows me copies of communications between Marcus and Victor Blackwood, messages that make my skin crawl with their casual discussion of manipulating me, controlling me, using my feelings against me. There's one message from Marcus to Victor dated 6 months ago. She trusts me completely now. The prenup she signed is ironclad. She gets nothing if we divorce unless I cheat, and I've been careful. When the deal closes, I'll file first, claim irreconcilable differences, walk away clean. She'll be too destroyed by losing the company to fight me. Easy money. Easy money. 3 years of marriage reduced to that. Easy money. Are you ready? Robert Chen asks. I look at him, this man who was my father's friend, who's been keeping this secret for 7 years, waiting for the moment to spring the trap. My father. In his letter, he said he was sorry, but I need you to tell me, did he die naturally, or did they? The coroner ruled it a heart attack, natural causes, but your father's doctor told me privately that the level of stress he was under, the blood pressure medication that mysteriously went missing from his office the week before he died. There's no way to prove anything, but I've always wondered. He pauses. Victor Blackwood visited your father the day before he died. They argued in his office. The next morning, your father was dead. I close my eyes. When I open them, Robert Chen sees something there that makes him lean back slightly. Make sure the federal agent you're calling knows I want Victor Blackwood charged with anything and everything possible. If there's even a chance he's responsible for my father's death, I want it investigated. I will. Now go, you have 30 minutes. I leave the coffee shop and hail a cab. The rain has stopped, leaving the city washed clean and glistening under the streetlights. I use the 15-minute ride to the Obsidian Tower to repair my makeup, to dry my hair as best I can, to smooth my clothes, to transform myself from the broken woman who stood in the rain watching her husband kiss her sister into the CEO who's about to walk into the most important negotiation of her life. The thing about being called the Ice Queen is that people think it's an insult, but ice isn't weak. Ice is water that's been through such cold, such pressure, that it's become something harder. Something that can crack stone. Something that endures. By the time the cab pulls up to the Obsidian Tower, I'm ready. The elevator to the 42nd floor seems to take forever. I use the time to review everything Robert Chen told me. The trust mechanisms, the legal triggers, the timing. Everything has to happen in exactly the right sequence or it all falls apart. When the elevator doors open, I step out into the reception area of Blackwood Industries. The receptionist, a young woman with a practiced smile, looks up. Ms. Winters, they're waiting for you in the executive conference room. May I take your coat? I hand it over, noting how she avoids looking at the damp patches, the signs of my earlier distress. Professional. Well-trained. I wonder if she knows what her employers really are, or if she's just another innocent person working for monsters without knowing it. The conference room doors are glass, and through them I can see Marcus packing near the windows, his phone to his ear. Cassandra sits at the long table, her fingers flying across her laptop keyboard. James Blackwood, Victor's son and the man I've been negotiating with for months, stands near the bar, pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. And at the head of the table in the power position sits Victor Blackwood himself. I hadn't known he'd be here. Robert Chen hadn't mentioned it. Victor rarely involves himself in day-to-day negotiations. He's the strategist, the puppet master, the one who pulls strings from behind curtains. His presence tonight means this is even more important to them than I'd realized. It means they're so confident in their victory that they want to watch it happen in person. Good. Let him watch when it all falls apart. I push open the doors and all conversation stops. Marcus looks up from his phone, his face arranging itself into an expression of concern. Alex, I was getting worried. Are you okay? You said you'd be here 20 minutes ago. He's good, I have to give him that. The worry in his voice sounds genuine. The way he moves toward me, arms outstretched for a hug, looks natural. 3 years of acting and he's perfected it. But I can see through it now. Once you know someone is wearing a mask, you can't stop seeing the edges where it doesn't quite fit. I accept his hug, even press my face against his shoulder for a moment, breathing in the cologne I bought him for our anniversary. Let him think I suspect nothing. I'm sorry. The accident shook me up more than I thought. I just needed a few minutes. Accident? Cassandra is up from her chair, moving toward me with sisterly concern. Alex, what happened? Are you hurt? I turn to her, taking in her face, the face I've known since she was born. I'm 6 years older, and I used to think of myself as her protector. I taught her to ride a bike. I scared away boys who were mean to her in middle school. I paid for her college when Dad died and money was tight those first few years. And all that time, from the moment she turned 19, she's been working to destroy me. Just a fender bender, nothing serious. I smile at her, and I can see the moment she relaxes, believing I don't know. I'm fine, really. Let's just get this signing over with so we can celebrate. James Blackwood approaches with 2 of the crystal glasses. Scotch, you look like you could use it. 25-year-old single malt, the good stuff. I take the glass, letting my fingers brush his as I do. He's attractive, in that way men with money and power often are. Strong jaw, confident posture, expensive haircut. Under other circumstances, I might have found him charming. Now all I see is the predator beneath the polish. Thank you, James. You always know exactly what I need. His smile widens at what he thinks is a flirtation. What he doesn't know is that I'm imagining him in handcuffs. Victor Blackwood stands, commanding the room with his presence. He's in his 70s, but age has only made him more imposing. Silver hair swept back from a lined face, eyes like chips of ice. This is a man who spent decades manipulating people, destroying lives, and getting away with it. Alexandra, I'm so pleased I could be here for this momentous occasion, when my son told me the deal was finally coming together. I insisted on attending. I hope you don't mind. Of course not, Mr. Blackwood. It's an honor. I shake his hand, and for just a moment I let him see something in my eyes. Something that might be fear or nervousness or intimidation. Something that feeds his ego, that makes him think I'm just a little bit overwhelmed by his presence. He squeezes my hand slightly harder than necessary, a power play. Let him think he's won. In 40 minutes, he'll know the truth. We settle around the table. The contracts are laid out in front of each seat, thick documents with page after page of legal language. I've read every word over the past 6 months, or I thought I had. But Robert Chen showed me the pages that had been added in the final version, the ones that weren't in the copy I reviewed last week. The poison pills hidden in subsection after subsection. Marcus sits on my right, Cassandra on my left. James Blackwood sits across from me, with Victor at the head of the table. There are others, too. Lawyers for both sides, witnesses, a notary. All part of the elaborate theater of corporate acquisition. Before we begin, Victor says, his voice carrying the weight of authority, I want to say how much respect I have for what you've accomplished, Alexandra. Your grandfather would be proud. Your father would be proud. Winters Global has been a force in this industry for decades, and it's because of leadership like yours. I smile at him, tilting my head slightly as if accepting a compliment. What he doesn't know is that I'm thinking of my father, of that meeting they had the day before he died. Did Victor threaten him? Did he know about the heart medication that went missing? Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. That means a great deal coming from you. My father spoke highly of you. It's a lie. My father never mentioned Victor Blackwood to me, but Victor's eyes flicker with something. Surprise, satisfaction, fear. I can't quite read it, and that interests me. Did he? Victor's voice is carefully neutral. I wasn't aware you and your father had discussed our family's business relationship. He's fishing, trying to determine how much I know. Oh, it was years ago, before he died. He mentioned that you were someone to watch in the industry, someone with vision. I pause, taking a sip of the scotch, letting the moment stretch. Someone who knew how to recognize opportunity when he saw it. Marcus's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing it. A gesture of support from a loving husband, or a warning from a co-conspirator. I squeeze back, playing my part. Cassandra leans closer, her perfume overwhelming. Are you sure you're okay, Alex? You seem different tonight. Of course she'd notice. We grew up together. She knows my tells, my moods. I need to be more careful. Just nervous. This is a big step for the company. I turn to her, meeting her eyes directly. I'm glad you're here. I wouldn't want to do this without family present. She softens at that, her hand coming up to touch my shoulder. Always, big sis, always. I think of what Robert Chen told me about Victor grooming her at 19, using her, controlling her. Part of me wants to see Cassandra as a victim too, but then I remember her in the window, kissing my husband, reaching for my contract. At some point, victim becomes accomplice. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your choices. Well then, James Blackwood raps his knuckles on the table, all business. Shall we proceed? I believe we've covered all the terms, unless anyone has final questions. This is it. This is the moment where I could still walk away. I could stand up, say I need more time, that I want my own lawyers to review everything one more time. I could avoid the trap they've set. But I'd also avoid the trap my father set for them. No questions. My voice is steady, clear. Let's sign. The next few minutes are a carefully choreographed dance. Pages are turned. Initials are added to dozens of pages. Lawyers murmur to each other, checking boxes on their checklists. The notary prepares her stamps and seals. Finally, we reach the signature pages. James Blackwood signs first, his signature bold and confident. Then Victor adds his name as guarantor. Then it's my turn. I pick up the pen, a Montblanc that was my father's, that I've carried every day since he died. I wonder if he knew, when he bought this pen, that it would someday sign the document that would destroy his enemies and save his legacy. Alexandra, Marcus's voice is soft, meant only for me. You're sure about this? Once you sign, there's no going back. He has no idea how right he is. I look at him, this man I thought I'd spend my life with. This man who promised to love me, honor me, stand by me. This man who was recruited 4 years ago to destroy me. I'm sure, I say. This is exactly what needs to happen. I sign my name, Alexandra Winters, the same signature that's on thousands of documents, on contracts and memos and checks. But this one is different. This one changes everything. For a moment, nothing happens. Everyone is still smiling, shaking hands, congratulating each other. James Blackwood opens a bottle of champagne. Victor Blackwood is watching me with satisfaction in his cold eyes. Marcus's arm is around my shoulders. Cassandra is taking photos with her phone, capturing what she thinks is a triumph. Then Victor's phone buzzes. He glances at it, frowns, and excuses himself to take the call. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I can see him packing, his expression changing from confusion to alarm to fury. James Blackwood's phone buzzes next, then Cassandra's, then Marcus's. I take another sip of my scotch and wait. Marcus pulls out his phone, and I watch his face as he reads whatever notification has just come through. The color drains from his cheeks. His hand, the one that's been resting on my shoulder, suddenly tenses. What the? This has to be a mistake. What is it? I ask innocently. Marcus, what's wrong? He doesn't answer me. He's staring at his phone, scrolling frantically. Across the table, James Blackwood is on his feet, his own phone pressed to his ear. What do you mean the shares didn't transfer? The contract is signed. Check again. Cassandra grabs my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Alex, what did you do? I turn to her slowly, and for the first time tonight, I let her see what's really in my eyes. Not confusion, not hurt, just cold, calculated fury. What did I do? I signed a contract, just like you wanted me to. Victor Blackwood storms back into the room. Gone is the polished patriarch. This is the real man, the one my father must have seen before he died. His face is twisted with rage. You knew. Somehow you knew. Knew what, Mr. Blackwood? I stand up, smoothing my skirt, projecting calm even though my heart is racing. I knew that my father loved me, that he would do anything to protect me and this company. Yes, I knew that. What I didn't know until a few hours ago was that you've been planning to steal my company for years, that you recruited my sister when she was barely an adult, that you convinced my husband to marry me as part of an elaborate con, that you run an organization dedicated to destroying families and businesses for profit. The room has gone silent. The lawyers are looking at each other in confusion. The notary has taken a step back, her hand moving instinctively toward her purse, probably for her phone. You can't prove any of that, Victor says, but his voice is tight with something that might be fear. Actually, I can. Right now, federal agents are executing search warrants on your offices, your homes, and your personal devices. A federal judge has frozen all share transfers related to Winters Global pending a forensic audit. And every communication you've had with my husband, my sister, and your associates for the past 4 years is being entered into evidence as part of a RICO investigation. Marcus is on his feet now. Alex, listen to me. Whatever you think you know, whatever someone told you, it's not what it looks like. Really? So you weren't recruited 4 years ago to target me? Our meeting wasn't arranged. Your entire relationship with me wasn't designed to get me to trust you enough to sign over my company. I turn to face him fully, letting him see that he's lost. Tell me, Marcus, did you ever love me, even a little, or was it always just a job? He opens his mouth, closes it. For once, he has no prepared lie, no manipulation ready. In that moment of silence, I have my answer. Cassandra tries a different approach. Alex, please, you don't understand. Victor, he made me do things. I was young, I was stupid. But you're my sister. We can fix this. We can. We can what, Cassie? You've been working to destroy me since you were 19 years old. You stood by and watched while I worked myself to exhaustion trying to save Dad's company after he died. You let me pay for your college, your car, your apartment. You came to my wedding and smiled while I married a man you knew was using me. When does that stop being something you were forced to do and start being something you chose? Her face crumples, and for a moment I see my little sister again. The one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The one I taught to braid her hair. But then I remember her kissing my husband, reaching for my contract, and my resolve hardens. Victor Blackwood is making calls, barking orders at people who are probably just as trapped as he is. James Blackwood has gone pale, standing frozen by the windows. And Marcus is looking at me like he's seeing me for the first time. You were always so soft, he says quietly. So desperate to be loved, to be seen. That's what made you easy. The words are meant to hurt, and they do. But they also clarify everything. This is who he really is. This is who they all really are. And whatever happens next, I'll survive it. Because I'm not the woman who stood in the rain crying. I'm not the woman who needed their approval, their love, their validation. I'm my father's daughter, and I've just checkmate them all. Federal agents will be here in approximately 10 minutes, I say calmly. You have 2 choices. You can cooperate and maybe negotiate lesser charges, or you can run, which will only make things worse. Either way, you're done. The consortium is done, and everyone you've ever hurt is going to get justice. Victor Blackwood looks at me with something that might be respect. Your father would be proud. That old bastard. He beat me even from beyond the grave. My father was worth 10 of you, I say quietly. He built something real, something that helped people, employed thousands, contributed to communities. What have you built? An empire of lies and theft. An organization dedicated to destroying what others create. You're not a businessman, Mr. Blackwood. You're a parasite. He moves then, faster than I would have thought possible for a man his age. His hand shoots out, grabbing my wrist, pulling me toward him. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. But before he can do whatever he's planning, the conference room doors burst open. Federal agents, a dozen of them, weapons drawn, filling the space with shouted commands and authority. Victor Blackwood, you're under arrest for racketeering, wire fraud, securities fraud, and conspiracy. The lead agent, a woman in her 40s with iron gray hair, approaches with handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. It all happens so fast after that. Victor being cuffed and led away, still snarling threats. James Blackwood cooperating, his hands up, asking for his lawyer. Cassandra crying, trying to explain. Being led out by 2 agents who look almost sympathetic. And Marcus just stares at me as they put handcuffs on him, his expression unreadable. I did love you, he says as they lead him past me. Not at first, not when it started, but somewhere along the way it became real. I know you won't believe me, but it's true. I don't respond. I'm not sure if he's lying or not, and I'm not sure it matters. Love that coexists with betrayal isn't love at all. When they're all gone, when the conference room is empty except for me and the lead federal agent, I finally let myself breathe. You did good tonight, Ms. Winters, the agent says. Most people couldn't have held it together the way you did. The recordings we got, the confessions, they're going to help us take down the entire organization. Recordings. She points to the pen in my hand, my father's Mont Blanc. Mr. Chen had it modified before he gave it to you. Everything that happened in this room was recorded and transmitted in real time. Victor Blackwood's threats, your husband's admission that you were easy, all of it. It's all evidence now. I look down at the pen, this gift from my father that's been with me for 7 years. He'd known. Even then, even before he discovered the full extent of the conspiracy, he'd known that someday I might need proof. That someday I might need to fight back. So he'd prepared this, one more tool in the arsenal he'd left me. Thank you, I say to the agent, for everything. Thank you for your cooperation, Ms. Winters. We've been trying to bring down the consortium for years. You've given us what we needed. She pauses at the door. For what it's worth, I am sorry. About your husband, your sister, I know this must be devastating. She leaves, and I'm alone in the conference room, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses and abandoned contracts. The New York skyline glitters through the floor-to-ceiling windows, millions of lights marking millions of lives being lived. I pull out my phone and call Robert Chen. It's done, I say when he answers. I know, I've been monitoring everything. You were magnificent, Alexandra. Your father would be so proud. What happens now? Now you go home, you get some rest, and tomorrow you start rebuilding. The company is safe. The shares are legally yours. The board will meet in a few days to address the members who were compromised, but with the evidence we have, they'll resign quietly. Winters Global survives. And Cassandra. There's a pause. She's agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. She'll testify against Victor and the others. If the prosecutor is satisfied with her cooperation, she might avoid prison time. But that's up to the federal prosecutor, not us. My sister might avoid prison. She might not. Either way, our relationship, such as it was, is over. You can't come back from this kind of betrayal. You can't rebuild trust that was never really there to begin with. Thank you, Robert, for everything. For keeping my father's secret, for waiting all these years, for helping me tonight. I made a promise to your father. I keep my promises. He clears his throat. Get some rest, Alexandra. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. I hang up and look around the conference room one more time. This is where it happened, where my old life ended and my new one began, where I stopped being someone who could be manipulated and became someone who fights back. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news. Federal raid at Blackwood Industries. That was you, wasn't it? You magnificent badass. J. Jordan Maxwell. My college roommate, my best friend, the one person who never wanted anything from me except friendship. The one person I stopped calling after I got married because Marcus had gently suggested that maybe Jordan was jealous of our relationship. Maybe it would be better to focus on family. Another manipulation. Another way to isolate me. I text back, long story, are you free for coffee tomorrow? The response is immediate. Always free for you, same place as college, 9 a.m. Perfect, see you then. I leave the Obsidian Tower and step out into the New York night. It's cold, the kind of October cold that promises winter is coming. But the rain has stopped and the air smells clean, fresh, like new beginnings. I don't go home to the apartment I share with Marcus. I can't face that yet, all those memories that I now know were built on lies. Instead, I check into a hotel, a nice one with room service and thick robes and windows that overlook Central Park. I order food I don't eat, take a shower that lasts until the water runs cold, and finally let myself break down. I cry for the marriage that never really existed, for the sister I thought I had, for my father, who died knowing his family was being destroyed from within, for the woman I was this morning, who still believed in love and trust and family. When the tears finally stop, I feel empty, hollowed out, but also lighter, like I've been carrying weight I didn't know was there and now it's gone. I sleep deeply, dreamlessly, and wake to sunlight streaming through hotel windows. For a moment, I forget everything. Then it all comes rushing back, and I expect to feel that crushing weight again. But I don't. Instead, I feel determined. I shower, dress in clothes I buy from the hotel boutique since I have nothing else, and head to the coffee shop near my old college campus. Jordan is already there, sitting at our table, 2 cups of coffee waiting. She stands when she sees me, and I walk into her hug without hesitation. "Okay," she says when we finally sit down. "Tell me everything." So I do. I tell her about standing in the rain watching Marcus kiss Cassandra, about Robert Chen and my father's letter, about the trap within the trap, about sitting in that conference room pretending I didn't know my entire life was a lie, about federal agents and arrests and handcuffs. Jordan listens without interrupting, her hand holding mine across the table. When I finish, she's silent for a long moment. "I never liked Marcus," she finally says. "I know I never said anything because you seemed happy and who am I to judge? But there was always something off about him, something too perfect, like he was performing instead of living. Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened? You were in love, or you thought you were. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was just a charming guy who happened to fall for my best friend. I wasn't going to ruin your happiness on a hunch." She squeezes my hand. "But I'm glad I was right, even though I hate that you had to go through this." We sit in comfortable silence for a while, drinking our coffee, watching the morning rush of students and professionals hurry past. This is real, I think. This friendship, this moment. This connection that doesn't want anything from me except to be here. This is what real looks like. "What happens now?" Jordan asks eventually. "With the company, with you?" "The company survives, thrives even once we clean out the corruption. I already have calls into the good board members, the ones who weren't compromised. We'll rebuild." I pause. "As for me, I don't know, divorce my husband who was never really my husband. Try to come to terms with the fact that my sister betrayed me. Figure out who I am when I'm not being manipulated." Alexandra Winters. "You're brilliant, driven, kind when people deserve it, and ruthless when they don't. You're the woman who brought down a criminal organization and saved your family's legacy. You're my best friend, and you're going to be fine. Better than fine." I want to believe her, and maybe someday I will. The next few weeks are a whirlwind. The media has a field day with the consortium scandal. Federal prosecutors hold press conferences. My face is on the cover of every business magazine with headlines like "The Queen Who Saved Her Empire" and "How One Woman Brought Down a Criminal Dynasty." I give interviews, carefully controlled ones where I talk about my father's legacy and the importance of ethical business practices. I don't talk about Marcus, though reporters constantly ask. I don't talk about Cassandra, though they want those details most of all. Some things are too personal. Some betrayals cut too deep to share with strangers. Marcus's lawyer reaches out about the divorce. I refer him to my lawyer. Marcus himself tries to call me 17 times before I block his number. He sends letters to my office, to my hotel, to Jordan's apartment. I don't read them. I have them sent to my lawyer, who adds them to the evidence file. Cassandra does testify. I watch some of it on the news, see her in a simple dress with her hair pulled back, looking young and scared. She cries on the stand when describing how Victor Blackwood recruited her, how he'd promised her wealth and power, how he'd convinced her that taking down Winters Global was actually saving it from my mismanagement. She claims she was going to stop Marcus before the kiss went too far. She claims she never wanted to hurt me. The jury doesn't believe her. Neither do I. In the end, she gets 3 years in a minimum security facility and 5 years probation. Marcus gets 7 years. James Blackwood gets 12. Victor Blackwood gets 25 and will likely die in prison. Justice, I suppose, but it doesn't make me feel better. It just makes me feel empty. The company stabilizes. With the corrupt board members gone and the Blackwood threat eliminated, Winters Global's stock actually rises. Investors see the scandal as proof of our value. The consortium only targeted companies worth stealing. I negotiate new deals, better deals, with partners who are actually partners. I hire a new CFO, someone recommended by Robert Chen, someone whose background has been checked and verified 6 different ways. I don't date. I don't even think about it. The idea of trusting someone that way again makes my skin crawl. But slowly, very slowly, I start to heal. I reconnect with old friends, the ones I lost touch with during my marriage. I discover that many of them had the same feeling Jordan did, that something was off about Marcus, but none of them felt they could say anything. I understand. I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. I move into a new apartment, one with no memories of Marcus. I decorate it myself, with colors and furniture I actually like, not the minimalist aesthetic Marcus had preferred. I hang paintings that make me smile and buy plants I probably won't be able to keep alive but want to try anyway. I visit my father's grave for the first time since the scandal broke. I bring flowers and I sit on the grass beside his headstone and I tell him everything. "You saved me, Dad," I say quietly. "Even after you were gone, you were still protecting me. I wish you'd told me while you were alive. I wish we could have faced this together. But I understand why you didn't. You were trying to save both your daughters. It's not your fault that one of us was already gone." The wind rustles through the cemetery trees, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and approaching winter. I stay until the sun starts to set, talking to my father, imagining what he'd say back. Probably something about strength and resilience and the importance of always having a contingency plan. 6 months after the signing that changed everything, I'm in my office when Robert Chen calls. "I thought you should know," he says. "Victor Blackwood died this morning, heart attack in his cell. Ironic, given what might have happened to your father." I feel nothing, not satisfaction, not grief, just a blank acceptance. "Thank you for letting me know." There's something else. In his belongings, there was a letter addressed to you. The prison is sending it to your lawyer, but I wanted to give you a heads up in case you don't want to read it. A letter from Victor Blackwood, my father's possible murderer, the man who recruited my sister and arranged my marriage. What could he possibly have to say to me? "I'll decide when I see it," I tell Robert. The letter arrives 3 days later. I stare at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside is a single page, written in shaky handwriting that suggests Victor's health was already failing when he wrote it. "Alexandra," it begins. "You won't believe this and you have no reason to trust anything I say, but I need you to know the truth before I die. I did not kill your father. I wanted to. I planned to. But he died before I could act, and in a strange way, I've spent the last 7 years grateful for that. Not because he was spared. He was dying anyway, heart disease that his doctor says would have killed him within a year. But because his death meant I never crossed that particular line. I've done terrible things, destroyed families, ruined lives, built an empire on other people's misery. But I never committed murder. Your father died of natural causes, accelerated by stress I absolutely caused, but natural nonetheless. You deserve to know this. Not because I want forgiveness, I'm far past that, but because you deserve the truth. Your father was a worthy opponent. You are too. If things had been different, if I'd built something legitimate instead of building what I did, I think we could have been friends. Strange thing to realize in a prison cell at the end of my life. I read it 3 times, trying to determine if he's lying, trying to decide if it even matters. My father is still dead. Victor's crimes are still real. The years of deception still happened. But knowing that my father died naturally, that his death wasn't murder, lifts a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. At least in that. At least in his last moments, my father was not a victim of violence. Just a man with a failing heart and too much stress, who died at his desk still trying to protect the people he loved. I fold the letter carefully and put it in my desk drawer, next to my father's watch and his modified Montblanc pen. Artifacts of a war I didn't know I was fighting until I'd already won. Life goes on. The seasons change. My first year of freedom, as I've come to think of it, passes into my second. I'm in a board meeting when my assistant interrupts with an urgent message. I excuse myself, irritated. I've left strict instructions not to be disturbed during board meetings unless it's an emergency. "What is it?" I ask sharply. My assistant, a competent woman in her 30s named Patricia, looks uncomfortable. "There's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. She says she's your sister." My blood goes cold. Cassandra is in prison. No, ma'am. She was released 3 weeks ago. Good behavior. Released? 3 years served, 2 years shaved off for good behavior and cooperation. She's out, and she's here. Tell her I'm not available. I tried. She says she'll wait. She's been in the lobby for 4 hours. 4 hours, sitting in my lobby, waiting for me. I think of the last time I saw her, being led away by federal agents, crying and trying to explain. I think of all the years before that, all the times I trusted her, helped her, loved her. All the ways she betrayed that. Ms. Winters, Patricia is waiting for instructions. I should send Cassandra away. I should maintain the boundaries I've established, the protective walls I've built. I should protect myself. But she's still my sister. And despite everything, despite all the betrayal and pain, part of me needs to hear what she has to say. Send her up. Give me 5 minutes first. I use those 5 minutes to compose myself, to remember that I'm strong now, that I can't be manipulated anymore, that whatever she says, whatever she wants, I'm in control. When Cassandra walks into my office, I barely recognize her. She's thinner, her hair shorter. She's wearing clothes that don't fit quite right, probably from a thrift store. There are shadows under her eyes and new lines around her mouth. Prison aged her, or maybe just reality aged her. Alex, her voice cracks. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. I don't invite her to sit. I'm sorry, I know that's not enough. I know saying it 1,000 times wouldn't be enough, but I need you to hear it. I am so sorry. Tears are already falling down her face. I was young and stupid, and he made me feel special and important, and I didn't think about what I was doing until it was too late, and then I was trapped and... Stop! I hold up one hand. You weren't trapped, Cassie. You made choices. Every single day for years you made choices. You chose to take his money. You chose to spy on our family. You chose to help him recruit Marcus. You chose to show up at my office and pretend to support me while working to destroy me. Those were your choices. I know, she's sobbing now. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. I testified. I told them everything. Victor, Marcus, all of them are in prison because of me. You testified to save yourself, to get a reduced sentence, not to help me. That's not true. Alex, please, you have to believe me. In prison, I had time to think, to see clearly. What I did was unforgivable. But you're still my sister. We grew up together. You taught me to ride a bike. You braided my hair. You paid for my college. I threw all that away for money and excitement and the feeling of being important to someone powerful. But none of it was worth losing you. I want to believe her. God, how I want to believe her. But I've learned my lesson about trust. What do you want, Cassandra? Nothing. I don't want anything. I just wanted to apologize in person. To tell you that I understand if you never forgive me. But I needed you to know that I'm done with all of it. Victor, the consortium, all of it. I'm going to rebuild my life the right way. Get a job, an apartment, earn things instead of stealing them. And maybe, someday, if you can ever forgive me, we could try to be sisters again. She stands there, waiting, hope and fear warring on her face. This is the moment where I get to choose. I can send her away, cut her out of my life completely, never see her again. It would be justified. It would be protecting myself. Or I can leave the door open, just a crack. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. But acknowledgement that she's trying. That people can change. That family, broken as it might be, is still family. I can't forgive you, I say finally. Not now, maybe not ever. What you did was too big, too deep. You didn't just betray me once. You betrayed me every day for years.